Negotiations are just around the corner. Trump promises to end the war in 2 to 3 weeks, 6 months, a year. Putin is a good Samaritan and wants peace. All these statements have been coming from the mouths of politicians for several weeks, even months. They are being discussed in all possible global publications.
They agreed on a path to some conditions for a ceasefire today and towards its complete cessation. In fact, I think that in a few weeks we can achieve this.
All this time, Ukraine has been saying only one thing: peace is good. But what about security guarantees?
It is peace we need, not an eternal war. That's why we say that security guarantees are the key to this.
One of the options for such security guarantees is peacekeepers. They can arrive in Ukraine immediately after the signing of the peace agreement. This is assured by European partners. Some countries have doubts, but more allies are joining. In particular, the British Special Forces have already been put on alert. But where will the peacekeepers be stationed? What deterrent potential will the military have? From which countries will they come to Ukraine? And have there been similar operations before? We will tell you all about this in just a moment.
Peacekeepers in general are a viable idea. It is not a stillborn concept. There are many examples where peacekeepers have done good things. For example, the successful UN peacekeeping missions in Congo and Kosovo.
Kosovo, which is one of the striking examples. By the way, Ukrainians were also there. The NATO peacekeeping mission, known as K4, was deployed in 1999 in the region. The goal was to put an end to the humanitarian crisis and the ethnic cleansing of Kosovo Albanians carried out by Yugoslav forces. After some time, the mission of the North Atlantic Alliance became to maintain security, ensure freedom of movement, and assist in creating a stable, democratic, and multinational Kosovo. For its purposes, NATO initially deployed about 5,000 people in the region. 50,000 military personnel. Now their forces are significantly smaller. But the main question is, did they help? At the time of the deployment of troops, Kosovo was not an independent state and did not have its own army. And NATO troops were necessary to maintain order. Considering that in 2008 Kosovo declared independence, the peacekeeping forces indeed accomplished their task. Of course, not everything went smoothly, and there were losses among the peacekeeping mission. But the main argument was still that NATO forces could retaliate. Will the peacekeepers arriving in Ukraine have such authority? This is still an open question. Yes, and whether they will be there at all is also unclear. At least because the Russian Federation is categorically against the deployment of foreign troops, although experts do not rule out that everything could change drastically.
Right now, we are solely up against the position of the Russian Federation. They don't like it, they wouldn't want it. But that doesn't mean their position can't change over time. And it seems that European countries want to be at least morally and materially prepared for the possibility that, for example, they might persuade the United States of America, the Russian Federation, and it, graciously allows it. Alright, let's form a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. And in Europe, everything is already ready, everything is thought out, analyzed, decided, how many people, how to support them, for what period they need to be sent.
Well, for now, yes, it's thought out, but still too far off. European partners don't even know how they will contain the Russian occupiers. The fact is, in the event of an attack by the Russians on European forces that will be stationed on Ukrainian territory, the latter will likely still be unable to return fire. And when journalists inquired of the UK Health Minister about the situation, asking what kind of deterrent effect or influence potential British troops might have if they were sent to Ukraine, he couldn't give a direct answer, only mentioning in his response that it would be a significant red line in international relations, one that has never been crossed since NATO was founded. But Hasn't Putin already violated all possible red lines? Ha ha ha! When we talked about Kosovo, we noted that there were casualties among the peacekeepers. And Putin is clearly not someone you can trust and be sure that there will be no attacks or provocations. And what foreign peacekeepers will do then is still an unknown variable.
And in the event of an attack, for example, by the Russian Federation with Kinzhal and Iskander missiles on locations where French soldiers are stationed, what then? What do the French do then? Do they say, "Oh, what a pity, we take our wounded and dead back to France, send a new batch," or immediately reinforce with a new batch with even more soldiers, declare war on the Russian Federation, close the skies over Ukrainian cities? That is, further steps need to be thought through here.
Questions remain. Where the peacekeepers will be stationed?
If they are to be stationed, Lviv, Dnipro, Kyiv, what is the point of these peacekeepers? Okay, they sit in the Kyiv region, for example, or in the Odessa region, occasionally going out. Where to? To have coffee in the center of Kyiv, in the center of Odessa, in the center of Lviv? What is their function? What will they do? Peacekeepers, essentially, logically, should be stationed along the demarcation line to maintain order and prevent provocations. This is called peacekeeping.
To maintain peace, the number of these peacekeepers is also important. In January of this year, the president of Ukraine stated that in the event of reaching a ceasefire agreement with Russia, at least 200 Stalin European peacekeepers would need to be deployed on Ukrainian territory to prevent further Russian attacks. But official Kyiv is not being heard again. The Europeans want to deploy only 10,000 peacekeepers. Will that be enough? It's unknown. But we just remind you that in the small Kosovo there were 50,000 at one time.
200,000 is the minimum. That's the minimum, otherwise it's nothing. Otherwise, it's something, like when we had the OC and no one knew how they could help.
Such a number of troops the world can provide. Does it want to? That's another question. It certainly can, considering how many countries have already agreed to help Ukraine in this matter. To be more precise, they state that more than 30 countries have already joined the so-called coalition of the willing, and many of them are ready to send their troops to Ukraine. Among them are France, Belgium, Canada, the United Kingdom, Denmark, and even Australia. In addition, if the Russian Federation agrees to peacekeepers, then the occupiers may also put forward their proposals regarding the composition of the peacekeeping contingent. Among such countries could be Belarus, Kazakhstan, OPA, and African countries.
And in principle, a mixed team from NATO countries. Western Europe, countries that the Russian Federation trusts. And here they all, under the aegis of, for example, the United Nations, could appear in the Ukrainian-created demilitarized zone.
What do you think? Will it be a mixed team? And how do you feel about this? Write your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like this video. And be sure to subscribe to our new Arsenal channel so you don't miss all the most interesting content.